Welcome. Let us look at the foreign conquest of Egypt, Hamid, because it debunks the lies of modern history. First, the cardinal point is that Egypt or Hamid is in Africa, not Europe, not Asia or Middle East, and that the ancient Kushites or Nubians and Egyptians were same people because they lived in the same area, and that there is a history of how we came from being melanin dominant to almost losing our melanin through misgeneration and mixing up, and to the modern Arabs that are occupying and conquering Northeast Africa, so-called Middle East. This is what we see today, a competition of race of who is who. But it is very clear that 1763 to 1769 black queens were found in Northeast Africa, which is so-called Middle East, and that this is fake, and this is fake, and all this is fake, and she is Queen Nefertsobek, the original one. But we have lost it through foreign conquest. But concerning the whitening of our northeast portion of Africa, is that the Hyksos were the first people to conquer us, 1650 to 1550 BCE. That the Hyksos were rulers and foreign rulers of foreign lands. But it is very clear, very obvious, that when you read about them and when you do a research about them, there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of mixing up. The Hyksos rulers are not well documented. That's what many scholars say. But some suggested that Salitis and Khyan might have been prominent Hyksos leaders, but they don't look like that. What we should understand is that all this area was ruled by Hamid, not Hyksos, by Hamid. In those dates and those days that are said the Hyksos conquered and came over to take over the throne in ancient Hamid. These are the Hyksos rulers. It is very clear that they are melanin dominant. King Apepa or Apepi I, Greek Apophis, 16th dynasty. And the other one here, there is an explanation that this is an erroneous bust of Pharaoh Amenemhat III, which is found in Rome. And the Egyptian pharaohs or Hamitic pharaohs never depicted themselves with the full beards, but rather with wrapped goatee-like fake beards. Even female queens and kings like Hatshepsut would have those false beards. This statue and the wig that is worn there, this is almost certainly a Hyksos statue, but is melanin dominant. So there is a lot of interracial war or intertribal war that is concerned here. M.R. Imhotep, one of the best researchers today, says that archaeologists have exposed the truth behind the over 3,000-year-old myth about Hyksos invasion in Hamid. And textual evidence from the Hyksos documents and archaeological evidence make it very clear that they were Kushites. In other words, Kushites who came from Mesopotamia, because this is where we all ruled, and these are the kings that are associated with Kushite Empire or so-called Persian Empire that became Babylonia and Mesopotamia. So after the defeat of the Hyksos, we know that in 669 BCE, the Assyrians from Mesopotamia also conquered and came to rule Hamid. From here, Assyrians, but they are melanin dominant. They are Kushites. They are not of any other race. This is very clear from their image and also their images. These are fakes that are created now to create a new race of Assyrians. While we know that the Aramean king Hazael looked like that, King Ashurbanipal looked like that, and the Assyrian conquest of Hamid looked like that. So these were not foreign rulers, and the Hyksos were more like an interracial group of people that had other people like the Semites and other mulattoes amongst them, as shown here by Abisha the Hyksos with more realistic eye edited. Right, you can see that he is a mulatto. Kushites, like all other Africans, have various physical features. This is what Dr. Clyde Winters shows and teaches. So there was no foreign conquest then prior to 1000 BCE. These people, who known as Kushites, are being led by Abisha, and it's very obvious and open. The Kushites lived in Wawati, Yam, Tasseti, and in Lower Hamid since Naremera's day, as proven by the term Kush or Kushite, and on the Nahal, Tila Abula Una weighing inscription and the Hyksos king's seals and scarabs looks like that. Very, very, very obvious that we are on a common territory here. So there was obviously a research, and there were obviously researches done, archaeology, and this is a Hyksos woman, melanin dominant. Another Hyksos pharaoh native to Lower Hamid. The Hyksos kings like Apophis and Shoshenq continue to refer to themselves as Hatshepsut or Kush kings or kings of Kush, which was used for a long time. The Persian Rule also in 525-404 by King Cambyses also has some mixture of people of races that came there. The Achaemenid dynasty in ancient Egypt, the 27th dynasty, which was established after Egypt was conquered by the Persian Achaemenid Empire, and the latest king and their rulers, Cambyses, who crowned themselves pharaohs, looked like that. This is Cambyses of, obviously, is totally different. This is 525-522. Cambyses the second Persian king. And look at the next one, Badia, known as Smerdis. He looked like that. And also Darius looked like that. This is critical now, because it is at this juncture that the three last pharaohs native to ancient Hamid are shown. If you study history, if you read a lot of stuff, they won't show you all these kings. They will just be mumbling around. Nectanebo 1, 380, 362, Teos 365, 360, and the last one, Nectanebo 2, 360 to about 332. So after 332, this is when we have Alexander the Greek and Ptolemy Soter, who established the fundamentals of what is known as Christianity today. And it is that time that Europeans started to cross the Red Line and pour into Northeast Africa. And then he was followed later by Ptolemy Philadelphus, 283-246. This is when the foreigners are now pouring in and coming in, and Egypt or Hamid or Northeast Africa is gone for good. Ptolemy III Euergetes, 246-222 BCE. These are Europeans now sitting on our thrones. Also have Cleopatra, looked like that. She was mixed, and this was the first Roman ruler. Ptolemy 5 Philopater, Philomenta, Caesarion, 444-430. That is where the problems begin. And now there were a lot of Byzantine or Roman rulers up to about 640, when the Arabs who are there now, who are also Europeans, came and conquered. And the Arab conquest, 641 common era, Amr ibn al-As, companion of Prophet Muhammad, led the Arab conquest of Egypt. If the Arabs were original indigenous people, there would be no need for all this. It would be succession just the same as the original Hyksos that we have seen. No changes. And the Persians, no changes. And the Assyrian, no total changes. And then all these are the Mamelukes, the Ayub, the Fatimid, the Ottoman Empire, 1717, 1517, 1798, French invasion. Europeans are still coming now. Europeans and Romans and Greeks. 1798 to 1801, the Ottoman reconquest. 1801 to 1805, Muhammad Ali dynasty. And now it is the Muhammad Ali dynasty that is still ruling. This is the end of our era. The end of the creative empire that dates back from millions and millions of years. So these are the indigenous people, the original queens and kings, the people that have been in charge of ancient Hamid. Never allow anyone to explain to you or to teach you anything else. You see them, they attack the noses of our kings. They smash and destroy everything that will point to the true history. They create fake religions, even when the original truth is set in their faces. They deny it outrightly. They do not deny it softly or nicely. They just say it is not like that, and write books and books and books and draw images and images, and these days they are into making false sculptures. Sometimes they knock the noses of those sculptures even of their own, to take the position that they are the original, yet they are fake Egyptians. They do not look like the originals. We are the original. Anyone who comes to you and tells you anything else and they are not melanin dominant, the true indigenous Egyptians are still in Hamid. There are a lot of images of them from the 1920s, from the 1930s, all across the ages. Even today as we speak, you can see like Pharaoh Kufa. It was prophetic for him to be given that name, because although he was the last of the great ones, or amongst the great ones, it is very clear that we've lost a kingdom, we've lost a civilization. We lost it because of conquest. We are losing that in terms of knowledge and understanding and wisdom because of the false teachings that are coming from the history of how we were conquered. We were conquered by foreigners, by other races. When it was amongst ourselves, it was only original pharaohs, melanin dominant humans, Bantus, Africans, Negritos fighting amongst themselves without a lot of racial changes, without a lot of religious changes, without a lot of digging up graves, destroying images, statues, or destroying and distorting history. It is very clear that even as late as the 1930s, even during the drive of them out of the sea people, this is what ancient Hamites looked like, ancient Egyptians looked like. They never looked like Europeans, because today we are infested by a lot of mulatto fakes created for the sole purpose of stealing our history. We want to calm down and we want to reclaim this history. Why should we claim this history, and why should we understand our conquest? Because when we understand the errors and the mistakes that we made in ancient times, in any position that we are today, as original people before foreign conquest, we will understand that our consciousness, our race, our identity is completely tied to our history. And our history teaches us greatness. And our history teaches us survival, fighting, warrior spirit, never die spirit. Our history tells us to establish systems. Our history teaches us that we were inventors, we were creative, we were able to survive without depending on anybody. Our continent is the richest in terms of history, mineral resources, and spirituality. We will not need to become Christians, Jews, or Muslims. Why? Because it is Christianity, it is Islam, it is Judaism that has destroyed our foundational understanding of who we are. It has taught us that we have original sin. It has taught us that we are nothing but people that need salvation. We do not need salvation because we have our ancestors who saves us. We have our divinities who saves us. We have a history which saves us, because history is written by the victor. History is written by the conqueror. History is written by that person who has defeated you, and they cannot write your greatness, but they will write you down and delegate a position of slavery to you. It is very clear that our survival, even in the spiritual realm, is completely tied to the understanding that we should have of our own history, our own identity lived, and what our ancestors did correctly or wrongly, sinfully or righteously. Maati, Ubuntu, Isfet, Ububi, our calendar, our knowledge, the heritage that they left us in terms of statues, buildings, systems. This is what they want. This is what we want to adopt and to stick on. So, though our ancestors left evidence on stone, our enemies, our eastward enemies, who colonized us, put us in chains, dragged us across the oceans, the seas, threw us into the oceans to be eaten by sharks, by crocodiles, chopped our heads off when we were tired in the deserts, sodomized our ancestors, raped our ancestors, mutilated them, experimented on them, sent them to the dungeon, sent them in prison, starved them, caused mayhem to them, depressed them. We cannot follow their religions or their systems. It is time for us to know the history of our conquerors. There is no pale Arab today in Northeast Africa, from Morocco to Persia, Iran, who is indigenous. They all came from Europe. They are all Europeans. Most of them came via Turkey, including so-called leaders, presidents, prime ministers that used to advocate for African unity, like Muammar Gaddafi. They are all pale Arabs. They are all Turks. They came from Europe. This is why we want to teach this. And when we reclaim Hamit and the Kush and the Nubia and the Mesopotamia and the Mohenjo-Daro, we are reclaiming what is ours. We cannot lose it. We should not allow anybody anywhere else to teach our future generations any falsehoods, any salvation that does not involve the deification of our divinities and the love that we should have of our righteous ancestors. Not those ancestors that were Christians, Muslims, or Jews. We are not Christians, we were not Muslims or Jews. Our history shows who we were, who we worshipped, and where we go when we pass on. This consciousness in a melanin dominant body, crafted and shown on stone, and when they chop off the nose, they know what they are doing. They are chopping off your ankh. That's your conqueror, and you should not support your conqueror. Your Hamaneja Topi here, Priest Teacher Rabbi Elem Dwizulu Kunken Mjaganja Mskawam says, this is the true history, and those that conquered us are still in Middle East, which they created, which never existed in history. What existed was the whole of Africa, right from Mapungubwe up to Mohenjo-Daro via Sumer. Till we meet again, stay well, study well, understand this truth forever and ever. Amen, amen, amen ra. Subscribe to our channel, share this video, download it and keep it somewhere. Leave your comment, because your comments are very, very important. And follow us on social media, on WhatsApp and Facebook. Till we meet again, have a great day. Amen.